Hi everyone, this is Justine Rhodes, your host for Mentally a Badass. This podcast is dedicated to breaking the boundaries surrounding the mental health conversation. The stories you'll hear on this podcast are real, raw, and relatable, and come from people from different backgrounds because we believe mental health is global and does not discriminate. Welcome to the unfiltered side of the internet. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mentally a Badass. My name is Justine and today I'm going to be interviewing Matt. He is an old friend of mine that I met on the Disney College program. It's going to be a nice casual conversation. We're going to be talking about a disease that he caught when he was a young child that caused brain damage. We're going to talk about his experience. So welcome to the podcast, Matt. It's happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So, just like in every Mentally a Badass podcast, we like to get deep into your childhood because our childhood does explain certain aspects of our adulthood. Of course, it's not going to define our future, but it gives us a little explanation of to really get to know who you are. So, let's start with you said that did you catch an infection or was it a disease? And also, can you tell me the name of it because I cannot pronounce it.
Yeah, so what happened to me? I was about 3 months old, okay? And this is an infection. So what happened was I caught this thing called encephalitis. This is, for people who don't know what it is, this is an inflammation of the brain. So you probably heard in the news within the last few years about heart inflammation, people getting heart inflammation. So this is similar to that, except it's inflaming your brain. So I caught this infection, inflamed my brain, and it can cause brain damage, right? So if you want to know, like, what does that do? What might that look like? Okay, so the doctors didn't even necessarily know what happened to me. When I was really young, I'd have to go see a lot of doctors. They'd have to do a lot of testing. They'd test my mental capabilities. So you perform all these different tests, like it might show me a photo, an overhead photo of a city and say, what's the best way to get from here to here? What's the most efficient or fastest way? And I'd have to try and figure it out. And there might be other questions like, show me a picture and then the picture slightly different. And, oh, can you figure out what changed? So just mental tests like that when I was fairly young. I also remember going through an MRI machine when I was young, getting my brain scanned. I'd spend overnights in the hospital sometimes so they could do these tests on me. And those are some of my earliest memories. I remember, and I just remember that so clearly because I remember one night just staying in the hospital, getting up out of bed, wandering around, and nurses coming to find me. Oh, hey, you got to stay in your room, stay in your bed. So they brought me ice cream. So I'd go back to bed. Yeah. And what ended up happening was I got diagnosed with developmental issues and learning disabilities. So throughout school, I'd have to work separately with teachers. They'd have to take me outside of class and work with me independently to try and go through things with me, explain things to me, because I wouldn't quite get them just sitting in the class with the other kids being lectured. I'd have to have them work through it with me. And I remember certain other things, probably kindergarten, first grade. I used to get petit mal seizures. So petit mal seizures occur in children. And if you know what a seizure is, I would just sometimes just be sitting in class and I just blank. I'd go blank because I'd seize out. I remember playing one day in class, just running around, and then I just collapsed. It's like I had a seizure. Everyone's worrying about me. Oh, what happened? yeah, so the seizures came when I was fairly young, but I haven't gotten them since I was really little because, like I said, they occur in children. I worked with a speech therapist as well, probably around sixth or seventh grade, because I was really quiet as a kid. Um, I couldn't necessarily speak clearly or speak up, get my voice up. So
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a speech therapist for a good long while, where they just come and meet with me, and I read with them, try and speak up out loud. I probably didn't really get over some of those speech things. Well, I still deal with them if I'm being honest from time to time. It still comes back
Mm-hmm.
from now and then. But I probably didn't really get rid of them until I joined Toastmasters. So I just got into public speaking and I really got to practicing it. And that helped me get over at least the speaking
Mm-hmm.
issues.
Yeah. I have a quick question. For the infection, did they tell you how you got it? Do you know?
Um, I'm really not sure because I was only about 3 months old at the time. And
Okay.
yeah, and it's not something I necessarily got into with my parents, asking them like, how did I get sick? Because I don't think they
Yeah.
even really knew.
Yeah, so it was probably something that was like a super rare case where the doctors can't even explain.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you were in the hospital a lot, what age were you?
Um, this was probably like my early years, like second, third, fourth grade.
Okay, so you were like around 7, 8. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
so that's the time of. The reason I asked that is because usually people remember things after the age of 5, but also some people remember things before the age of 5 if they were severely traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so I was
yeah,
wondering
probably
that.
around like 5 or 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 is like the earliest memory. So, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you right now?
Me, I'm 38 this year.
38. I don't know why I thought you were a different age. Cause I knew you from like I knew you were in your third. I just couldn't remember exactly what age you were, because we met in 2016.
Yeah. No,
So
I ended up going back to school in my 30s. So I was a fair bit older
oh,
than
cool.
everyone.
Yeah. What did you study?
Um, when I did the Disney program, I was studying marketing, management and marketing.
Ah, very cool. So yeah, so let's start. 'Cause I just wanted to ask those follow-up questions because I was very curious. But let me
Mhm.
take a step back. So you had seizures. And you said these only happened when you were a kid. You don't have seizures anymore?
I don't have seizures as an adult, no. Um,
Okay.
I,
Well.
I deal with other health issues as an adult, but
Mm-hmm.
those specific type of seizures, the petit mal
Mm-hmm.
seizures, like they're called
Mm-hmm.
that petite, meaning like child.
Mm,
So they occur in
yeah.
children. Yeah.
So and then you were telling me that you were bullied in school because of your the learning development. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. I grew up in a really small community. Um, I grew up in
In
a
Canada,
small,
right?
yeah, I had a small
Okay. Yeah.
class size. Yeah, I had a small class size in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
Like my year was probably only, it was like me, one other guy, and then like four or five girls. It was a really small class. So when I was a
Really? So
kid,
that's like 10? Maybe like less than 10?
yeah, yeah.
What kind of school was it? Was it like considered a public school, a private school?
Um, it was like a public school, but it was a Catholic school, so it was within a Catholic school board. Yeah.
Oh, that's so easy. I like just in because in I'm curious to see if that was like different from the U.S. and Canada because when I grew up in I'm in the U.S.
Hmm.
and I went to a Catholic school up until eighth grade, but we consider them private schools. So my parents had to pay
Okay.
for me to be there. Did your parents have to pay if it was public?
Um, yeah, it was public, so
Uh
my
huh.
parents didn't pay for it. And like
Interesting.
it was such a small community. There was a different like there was the Catholic school and then the public school. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got up to like seventh, eighth grade, the class sizes were so small in the other school that they just integrated them into our school.
That is so fascinating. Even though
Just,
I know that really nothing to do with mental health, I just think
yeah,
that's interesting
just
that the Catholic schools there are considered public, and since public paid by the taxes.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Interesting. Well, it is not the
well,
U.S. because the U.S. is supposed to be you're supposed to separate the church from the government, even though we
sure,
really
sure.
like
Separation of church and
even
state. Yeah.
yeah, even though it's not really done if you know the U.S. news. But anyway, yeah, I just thought that was just interesting. I just want
No,
to
it's
just
okay.
talk more because I was fascinated.
Uh,
But okay, so yeah, so you're in a small school.
yeah, and because it was such a small class size, like
Mm-hmm.
those kids that I grew up alongside through grades like kindergarten up to like say grade six until the as I said those kids from the other school got integrated. Like I grew up alongside those kids, so they knew I was different, but
Mm-hmm.
they didn't really treat me that differently. I still had friends. Um, they didn't bully me so much.
They didn't believe
I,
you.
I
Oh, bully you. Okay.
they didn't
Bull.
bully me so much as I don't know if it was like the Catholic kind of school upbringing. When I
It
started
was
getting
total up. It was different in the U.S. Complete opposite, by the way. Sorry, I had to throw that in there because okay, yeah, no, I had a totally different Catholic school experience.
I
I love
mean
this conversation. I'm learning so much about Canada right now.
I mean we used to have to go to mass and do confessions, so
Oh
I mean if kids
my
were
god,
picking
this is
on me
so interesting. I mean,
they'd
we did
probably have
too,
confessed.
but oh my
Yeah,
god.
and I was like an altar boy and all that, so
I was like an altar girl for like 1 second, just for some type of event thing. I think to make it look like show our parents that we're good children. I don't know. And I remember how nervous I was. Stage fright. But did he wait? Question for you. So with the so that's good that like they weren't really bullying you and such. But tell me about how your experience with did you get like behind in school, or were you just like right? Like, was the school system supporting you?
yeah, yeah. The through grade school, the school system supported me. So, like I said, I would work separately with the different teachers outside of class. They brought in a speech therapist at one point. So the school system through grade school, they were supportive. They were doing all that for me. Um, and I still had some supports in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once you're out of the public system, so once you're out of grade school, high school, that public system,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get so much in the way of supports
Yeah.
because now you're responsible for it. Now you gotta pay for it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. Speaking of high school, just because I wanted to get back to that, like kids in grade school didn't really bully me. I didn't start getting bullied till I got to high school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I live in the country, so there's no high school here. There's a grade school. There's the grade schools, as I said, but there's no high school. So I had to take the bus into the city to go to high school. Kids would sit behind me on the bus, and they'd pick out individual strands of hair and just like pull
Mm-hmm.
out my hair. They just do that
Mm-hmm.
every day. Every day, I get these kids just pulling out my hair, and they kind of like talk about me when they thought I wasn't listening, called me like
Mm-hmm.
creepy, weirdo, that kind of stuff. And at one point, I'd had enough of it, and I just snapped, I just like completely broke down. I got to school that day, and I was just crying uncontrollably. I'm going into class, and I got tears coming down. Like I can't control it just because like something broke inside me. I had to go talk to like a counselor after that, and then I started getting into like therapy after that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really where the bullying came in, was high school. As it was just such a different world from that like small
Yeah.
little Catholic school I grew up in.
And then that high school, was it just considered fully like non-Catholic, just like regular public school?
Yeah, yeah. The high school was just a regular public high
That
school.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense because you're being away from, I guess, the kids that you grew up with, I guess, had a good upbringing and learned discipline and learn how to treat others. And then you go into the public school where you're in this whole sea of other people from completely different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And you know how reality is. Not
Yeah.
everyone has a good upbringing, or some people not even have parent, could be even foster kids or whatever. But it's just more likelihood of being bullied. I was bullied in grade school and high school. The only place I wasn't really um phase in my life that I wasn't like really bully was like the college program. That's kind of like how Disney took. No, for real though, like because everyone was so nice there. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I hear different stories, of course, from people. Everyone has a different experience, but
Of course. Yeah.
overall, I think that we were surrounded by really friendly and kind people,
Yeah.
and there wasn't like, I mean, I didn't have any roommate problems. Like, I mean, here and there, I think maybe we'll have like a slight disagreement, but nothing serious. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Did you
Yeah.
have like good experience with that too?
Yeah. I mean, it was mostly the same for me. Like doing the Disney University classes, like
That's how
meeting.
we met.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Meeting you and the other girls, like Brianna and Laura, and and we did our video project.
Yes,
The,
the tea kettle. I have that. I still have the video. It's private and on my YouTube channel.
yeah, that was great. That was fun, and I'd been getting into learning Japanese, so I was able to connect with some of the Japanese people that were working there. I did have roommate problems though.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I don't know if it's just because I'm, again, like I'm older. So this was like what, 6 years ago, so I still would have been in my 30s.
Was
Six,
seven,
7 years. Yeah.
7 years. Like I would
So
say, yeah, it's just hitting seven because we moved in around end of August of 2016.
okay, so I would have been like what, like 31, 33. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it was just that different in age. Like I worked all day. I just worked like
Mhm.
8 hours in the park. It's like I got to work again the
Mhm.
next day. I just want to like go back to my room and get something to eat and go to go to bed. And then I come in and people are like partying, like, oh, what?
Steph, I think definitely it could be an age thing. Especially if because the average age for people in the program are like usually around like 19 to
Yeah.
like 23. So that's usually like the time where people are really exploring, and you're at the
Hmm.
point where you're just like,
Hmm.
I just want to chill. And I was like both of that. Like on the college program, like if I was like working at like, because I had to get up super early for work. So I worked at the vacation plan. I had to get up at like
Yeah.
5 a.m. to get the bus. And so, but I'll come home early, and then I'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to the park," and I'm like, "Oh, I want to go take a nap." But I was also like balanced because I did both. And then also there'd be a lot of times I would skip going to the park and edit a YouTube video. But yeah, I think it just part of depends on the person, but also I think an
For
age does have
sure.
a huge factor
For
because when
sure.
you're like 31, I guess I don't know. My boyfriend right now is 31, and I feel like actually he's not like a partier. I mean, he was like 2 years ago before he met me, so it
Yeah.
wasn't like too big of a gap. But I think now when him and I are dating, he's more low key now.
Yeah.
I think that was just I think I rubbed off on him. I don't know. But yeah, it also it just I think age does have to do with it, but also
Yeah.
it's just the person. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's definitely that issue that comes in where, again, because it's younger people, like you said, people around like 19, 20, like some of these people have lived on their own before, some of them haven't. So the ones that
Mm-hmm.
haven't don't necessarily know like how to take care of themselves. It's like, oh, I didn't know I. It's like I have to wash dishes and take garbage out because you have to keep your apartment show
Uh,
ready.
oh my
It's
god!
like
Remember we had like
I
those
I
random like when they came when like the Disney people like came in to like audit our apartments like mid program to make sure we weren't trashing the place.
yeah, yeah, and even weirder stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know how to store food. I don't know that certain food needs to
Mm,
be refrigerated because it molds.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, just
unfortunately,
the
some people are just brought up and their parents like don't teach them those life skills.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, I was I was like understanding of it, but I was like, yeah, I can only deal with so much before I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. So let's go a little bit more back. Let's talk about self-esteem
Sure.
topic. So you were bullied in high school, you had your mental breakdown. Did you so what did you do to work on it to, heal from that?
um, as I said, I started getting into like therapy, and
Mm-hmm.
probably when I was in my 20s, I started seeing a psychiatrist. Um, I think it was him that suggested I get into the public speaking, where I joined Toastmasters, and that did a lot for my self esteem. Just joining Toastmasters because you get feedback. So you go to your meetings and you give a speech, and people will give you feedback for your speech.
Mm-hmm.
And I got pretty good at it. And so I started doing contests. They have contests at different levels, club, area, district, and so on. I think I got up to area or district at one point. And one of the things they mark you for in the contest, not necessarily in the club, is just not just your speech, but everything about how you're presenting. So
Mm-hmm.
your your grooming, your manner of dress, if you look the part. So
Mm-hmm.
that really helped me just kind of like figure that kind of stuff out. I'd wear suits to do my speeches, to compete in the contest because everyone there is dressed nice. It's like, so sometimes I'd have other members of my club go with me who got to compete, and I'd try to tell them like, look, for these you got to dress nice. You got to because everyone there is going to be dressed nice. I had this one guy who's just wearing like a t-shirt, and gets there and it's like, oh yeah, I should have dressed. So I think that helped really build my self esteem, getting that kind of positive feedback, people saying something
Yeah.
like positive about me, about
Mm-hmm.
something I was doing.
Yeah. So you said these were contests. So did you win a contest or this is just feedback? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I
how'd
mean,
it work?
you always get feedback. You always get
Mm-hmm.
feedback on your speeches. You'll have an evaluator, and they'll grade you on certain things. So
Okay.
your clarity, your if you have the filler words, ahs and ums,
Mm-hmm.
how you were connecting with the audience. Were you just kind of looking at your notes the whole time, or were you making contact with the audience? Were you bringing them into the speech, engaging with them in some way? So, yeah, there's all kinds of things that they look at. And as I said, when you get up to the contest level, they start evaluating other things like your your dress and your whole
Uh,
presentation, use of props, if you use props, how effectively you use those, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
that is so interesting. What year was this?
What year was this? So I haven't been doing it since like before the pandemic, because the pandemic kind of shut
Oh,
stuff
so
down.
is this something you did after the program?
Yeah, this
Oh.
it was during, it was around the time I was doing the program. So when I was in
Oh.
college, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was okay. So beach. Oh yeah, I thought it was like after high school you did it.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, but it was after high school. But you said it was during the program, and typically people who graduate high school are usually like 17 or 18 years old.
Yeah, you'll remember I mentioned earlier that I went back to school when I was older.
Oh no no no! I understand that. I'm saying I'm doing timeline right now. We're talking about high school, and then you were talking about your what you
Sorry.
were doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
we kind of skipped 10
you
years.
yeah, you kind of asked me what I did to kind of, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I kind of skipped ahead. Um, yeah, I really didn't do much. I really didn't
Hmm.
do much of anything through my 20s, um, except just therapy, just meeting with a
Hmm.
therapist. And like I was just trying to get through school the first time I went. And,
Yeah.
and then I was just like unemployed for, or get unemployed or going through different jobs. And I really wasn't doing anything in terms of fixing my health. Because, like I said, like once you get out of the public system, you're
Hmm.
mostly on your own. So, they put me on
Yeah.
medication. I'd meet with a therapist now and then, and that was kind of it as far as like treating me.
So this is where the big part of my podcast is about is that we like to talk about people who go through rough times but then find that end, that light where they ended up changing themselves, and that's the greatest thing. So you said around those 10 years you weren't doing anything, and that's totally fine. A lot of times people have those moments, those decades where it's like they may feel lost, they may feel that they don't know what the next step is. So I do want to dive into that if you're okay with that.
Sure. Yeah, so when I was in high school, I really started developing my anxiety. I don't
Mhm.
remember feeling it so much when I was a kid. Um, when I got to high school and then beyond, I really started getting my anxiety problems. I get social anxiety.
Mhm.
I had a hard time communicating with people, building like building relationships, building close relationships.
Mhm.
And I developed depression.
Mhm.
So I think I kind of got lost in that, in the depression and the anxiety. And yeah, as I said, I tried to meet with doctors, tried to treat it, and what
Mhm.
do they tell you? They'll give you antidepressants. My doctor did suggest joining Toastmasters, as I said later on.
Mhm.
But at that time, I was just doing therapy. I was going to a support group, a mood disorder support group. So I just remembered that. Um, yeah, so I had my support group and therapy and medication, just trying to get through depression and anxiety, and that's what my prescription
Yeah,
was,
it
my medication.
sounds like you were what we call stuck in survival mode for about 10 years. And
Yeah,
then you were able to finally break from that and actually start living, which is fantastic. So, you said that your doctor's doing all this recommendation for you. So, let's talk about the time when you're just like, you know what? I don't want to be living like this anymore. I want to be able to do more with my life. Let's talk about that moment that you had.
hmm yeah. So I think that moment for me was, again, I said I joined Toastmasters. I'd been doing that for a while. I was starting to feel more confident. And in the school I was at, I found out about all these overseas opportunities. So,
Mm-hmm.
or out of country opportunities, because one of them was Disney. So I ended up doing that in
Oh yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
I went back. Uh, I did a, because I did the Disney program, I had to do a bunch of summer classes that next year.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I did another year of school. And then I went and did a semester in Japan. So I studied
Oh, that's
overseas in Japan.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's
loved it.
awesome.
Yeah, I loved it. Beautiful country. Met a lot of really great people. Yeah,
That's awesome.
that was really awesome. So I did that for a semester, took a semester off, and then I went and did my degree, my bachelor's degree. I went overseas to Ireland. So after I took a semester off after going to Japan, I
Mm-hmm.
went and did my bachelor's degree at a school in Ireland. So I did that for a year, and then the pandemic happened, and that kind of almost brings us up to date because we all dealt with that the last few years.
We're
So
still dealing with the aftermath,
yeah,
aka the economy. Is the economy
yeah,
struggling as much as ours in the U.S.?
yeah, but yeah, you couldn't
Yeah.
travel for the longest time, so that kind of ended my world travels.
Oh man. Still cool that you were doing that. I'm jealous. I've never been to Ireland or Japan. Like those are definitely on my list, but I just haven't really had the. Even though I have, it's more like the money thing because I work from my laptop, so I can technically just travel anytime I want. But money's a
That's
thing.
that's that's kind of why I ended up doing it through school because I was
Smart.
able I was able to get scholarships, so it didn't cost as much.
That's really cool. So what are you doing now?
What am I doing now? Um, I've been I've been trying to actually move back to Japan. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I did an online teaching course, so I spent last summer doing that, where I got my English teaching certification, and then I've just been applying for companies in Japan to teach English.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I haven't managed to get some offers yet, but I know for some of the companies, they don't hire people from overseas, but they'll hire people if you're already in Japan. So I'm looking for other
Mm.
possible ways to do that. I came across this company called Gogo Nihon, and they have
Mm-hmm.
schools across Japan where they take people to teach them Japanese, and that becoming fluent in Japanese might be helpful if I want to live in Japan.
Yeah.
So, but they'll also help
Yeah.
you. They'll also help you with job support. They'll help you
Uh-huh.
if once you finish their course and you're fluent, you can go on and do university if you want to study higher learning in Japan, or they can help you get into a career. And since I already have a bachelor's degree, I shouldn't need to do more schooling after that. So yeah, they might be able to help me uh, find a job. So I'm in communication with them right now. Just emails going back and forth are a bit slow, but
That is
yeah,
so cool.
yeah,
Just just think about it as like these opportunities are some of the greatest opportunities out there, and it's stink that you had 10 years where you're like felt lost. And
mhm,
but I'm one of those people to believe that you kind of have to go through you know like a downfall to get to the high, if that makes sense. And think about it like this, and that's like the whole point of this podcast, Mentally About It, is like you had a pretty rough. I mean, it's really rare that you had an infection like that. Like I said, never even heard of it.
yeah,
And for someone who has who oh, I was born with a cataract, and I have glaucoma in my right eye, so I know how it feels to struggle with I know you don't have a disease, but struggle with like a health condition at
mhm,
such a young age. And it's like remembering being in hospitals all the time, doctors' offices, and like that was just kind of like your life for a bit.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound kind of funny, but for me, when I went through all that, I kind of always like, oh, I get to miss school today. Cause I gotta go to the doctor. Like that's kind of like was my attitude towards it, and I don't know why, but everyone has a different experience. But I think part of me also didn't want to be in school because people were mean to me in school. But also it's like, being bullied for having something that is traumatizing as a child is, you know, you were people were, I mean, people weren't bullying you for it, but I guess they thought that, you were different, and then so they were just like bullying you for that, which stinks, like, and I understand how
They
that
just
feels.
like they pick up that you're different. It's like, oh, he's weird.
Yeah.
He's
But
weird.
listen, all these people probably think you're weird, but you're probably living a way better life than they are right now.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I don't want to really be negative on this podcast, but it's just a boost of course, we don't want to wish anything bad on others and such. And who knows, maybe because people who bully others are, struggling at home themselves.
Sure,
So people aren't born bullies.
sure.
They probably had parents who are bullies and bullied them,
Oh,
and then
for
they just
sure.
learn all of this and see this as normal, and they literally mirror, like that kids literally mirror their parents. It's a thing, it's called
Hmm.
mirror neurons.
Hmm.
And so they're gonna act exactly like their parents, so it has nothing to do with you. I feel bad for those kids. I wish I knew this when I was younger, because then maybe I would have handled it better. But yeah, I mean, also the mental breakdown you said you had, like, that's normal. I actually had a moment where when I was a freshman in high school, I had this kid, well, not kid, was my age, and he was actually my friend, which is the funny part. And he was just teasing me about my height, and at the time I was very insecure about my height because people were making fun of me because I was short. So that was like one thing people were bullying me about. And so he made this joke, like freshman year of high school. He's like, we were in the hallway waiting for class, and then he like kind of like pushes into me or something, kind of like we kind of like tripped or whatever. He was like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were one of the seventh graders," which are like 2 years younger.
Yeah.
Because the way my high school was is that it was from like 7 to 12, and I was like, I just like all of a sudden snapped, and I like grabbed his cheek, and all of a sudden, like, I didn't think much of it, and then after, he had like blood going down his face. And I guess, I mean, it could have just been just because my nails maybe were sharp at the time, but
Sure.
I didn't expect to like hurt him, but I snapped. So, and I think it's just because of the years and constant of teasing, you just snap here and there.
Yeah.
So, I definitely, I mean, no one's perfect. We all have our moments. Um, except I'm not gonna be like making kids bleed anymore. Yeah, it was so like, yeah. Of course, I went to the principal's office, but
Yeah.
my friend was like, yeah. But of course, my friend was like, she's my friend. It's fine. Like, she made a mistake. I was like crying. Oh my god. But no, but yeah, no, I didn't end up getting like detention or anything like that because we had to like talk to the principal and be like, listen, like, this isn't, we're not, like, we don't hate each other. It was just, we were just messing with each other, and I guess my nails were too long, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It's just a funny story I like to just bring up. But yeah, so my point of everything is that you never give up, which is great. Some people like that it can either get too really dark, or you overcome that, and that's what you did. Is there anything else in your story that you would like to bring up before I do my outro questions?
Um, I think we covered
Covered your whole life story in about
most
40 minutes.
most of the salient points, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
if it makes you feel any better about getting bullied for being short, I'm a fully grown adult and I'm only 5'8". So when I see guys that are taller than me, I'm like, oh, I'm so short.
I actually love my height now. No, I mean, at the time I didn't, but like I'm totally fine with I'm totally secure when it comes to my height. But that was just, obviously your brain's completely different when you're younger,
Yeah.
and you go through different life experiences. But the question I like to always end on is, um, what piece of advice would you give someone who is going through something similar? So they may struggle with a disease or an infection or something that has to do with, the function of the brain, just making it hard, and then they get mistreated in society
Sure.
because of that. What piece of advice would you give them to just, have that hope that life's going to get better?
Yeah. Like the way I like to think about it in terms of just whatever difficulties you're going through in your life. I think there's this saying, I can't remember who said this, but it's like this too shall pass. Whatever you're
Yeah.
dealing with, there's that. I remember that musical Avenue Q. There's this song in the musical For Now. Everything in life is only for now. Whatever you're dealing with, whatever difficulties you're dealing with, whatever challenges you're dealing with, it's just for now. It'll
Yeah.
end. I mean, even if you think about it in that our lives are finite, I mean, all our lives end eventually. Whatever pain you're dealing with, it will
Hmm.
eventually end, and you can move on to whatever you believe in is next, where that
Right.
pain is gone. Whatever you're dealing with, physical pain, mental pain, whatever pain you're dealing with, it's only temporary for this life. And what's I think really important is that in a spiritual sense, like whatever pain or suffering you go through in this life, it kind of like rewards you in the next life. Like
That's true.
I think Christ. I mean, again, we grew up in a Catholic school system. I think Christ said that when you suffer, it makes you closer to Him because Christ suffered. He suffered for our sin.
Yeah.
So when you suffer,
Makes
you
sense.
come closer to Christ.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even think of it like that. No, it's true. Yeah.
I and like like we were talking about, I went through a long period of like 10 years, and then it wasn't until my 30s that I started like turning my life around, where I started doing these things and having closer relationships. I had a girlfriend when I was studying in Ireland, so yeah.
I love it. It's kind of like you were living in survival and you started life in 30. And that gives so many, no, think about it. A lot of people, if like for me, I'm on social media all day, every day because it's my job. But there's people who feel like, oh, I'm like 20 something and I feel like I have my life together and they feel so sad. But then a lot of people really start their lives when they're 30 and they really start thriving. So it's like if people are, as someone who's listening to this who may be in their 20s and struggling, like just
Mhm.
know like you're literally your proof that your life can start moving forward. And you just got to keep
Yeah,
having that hope, and you just got to just keep going, really. Yeah.
yeah. And if you're like me, where you're like socially awkward, you're not good with people, it's like start looking to try and make those connections. You never know where those
Hmm.
connections are going to come from, where someone is going to help you with something or tell you something. Like, oh, my doctor told me to join Toastmasters. Oh, I joined Toastmasters at this school that I then ended up
Hmm.
going to, and then through that school I heard about the Disney program, and then I got to do that. So it's like you just never know where those life's opportunities are going to come in. Just get yourself
Yeah.
out in the world and connecting with people as much as you can. You never know when those
Yeah.
opportunities
I
are going
was,
to
I
come in.
was, Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, connections is definitely the biggest thing when it comes to having such amazing experiences. Have you ever heard of this saying? It's called "Your network is your net worth."
Yes, yes. So
Really cool. I feel like a lot of people don't have never heard of that. They're like, "What does that
being
mean?" I'm like, "It means that you don't have to have money to have a valuable and enriching life. The
mm,
people that you have in your life are people who can open up doors for you, who can educate you and give you knowledge and give you just a good quality of life. Because money isn't everything."
Well, they kind of drill into you in business school that networking is so important to
Yeah.
getting opportunities in life. When you're on like LinkedIn, people are
Yeah.
just like busting away on LinkedIn, just trying to build connections and promote themselves. And yeah,
Yeah. I also feel like it's a good and bad thing in my opinion because it's, LinkedIn's great, but also I feel like some people kind of just connect with just anybody and everybody, and it
to
just
get
comes
as
out
big
really
of a network as they
inauthentic.
can. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's just like inauthentic. Like I get so many random people connecting with me, and I'm just like, why? Like it doesn't. I don't know. It just. I also like to really keep. I don't know. I'm very picky when it comes to and people entering my life, and then also a lot of these people are usually like, oh, I see. Also, a lot of people on LinkedIn think I'm like a millionaire. Did I tell you someone actually went into my DMs on LinkedIn and was looking for millionaires to interview for their book? And I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm so happy they think I'm a millionaire. And the reason they think that is because I do own a company, which is my social media
yeah,
agency, but like I'm not rich. Like I mean, I could down the road if I scale it and build it. Hell yeah, I can definitely be a millionaire someday. But just because someone's an owner of a business doesn't mean they're rich. So anyway, a lot of people always come to me and be like, "Hey, do you need?" They're trying to like see if I'm hiring.
yeah,
They trying to sell me their service of scale.
yeah,
Like it's just a lot of that on LinkedIn, and I'm just like, that's why I barely go on it. Like it's just, I
yeah.
don't know. It just turns me off.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes those weird kind of random connections can work out. I don't think it was LinkedIn. I think it was Facebook, but this woman reached out to me because seen on Facebook that I'd worked at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so she had this company at the time where she did like parties and like events and stuff, called like Lily the Fairy. So she dressed up like a fairy and she had different people working with her that would wear different costumes. So she had me join her company for a while where I was just
That's
dressing up
cool.
like a pirate. So sometimes those weird connections lead to,
Yeah, it depends how they come across. It depends like what they say, you know what I mean? I personally like my best platform for connections, but just what I do is Instagram.
mhm,
So I found people like I'll communicate with people for like podcast hosts through there or just other mental health people. Okay, it's very niche on Instagram, like very niche space. And I met also some people from TikTok as well. So I think Instagram and TikTok are kind of just because I'm a content creator. So I guess it's
mhm,
like that's why. But yeah, no, I get
mhm.
what you're saying. But anyway, so
We're a
is
bit
there any?
longer than.
Yeah, no, you're good. Okay, so I'm just gonna end it here. Thank you so much for coming on to Mentally a Badass Man. We really do
Thanks for having me
appreciate
on.
you. Of course. And then
Yeah,
for
and
everyone listening, I
I
hope you guys have a good day, evening, or night, and stay tuned for next week's episode.